Who was there for you when no one else was? When I was 17, I didn't have many friends and would walk alone around the local park. It wasn't the safest place, but I liked being there. It was quiet, and I didn't have to talk to anyone. Most days, I'd sit on the same old bench with my sketchbook, just drawing whatever came to mind. After a while, I noticed this old man sitting a few benches down. He was always there around the same time, wearing this faded windbreaker and feeding pigeons from a paper bag. He never said anything, just sat there, tossing peanuts to the birds. At first, I figured we had the same idea. Keep to yourself. No one bothers you. One day, he looked over and asked if I liked to draw. I held up my sketchbook without thinking much about it. He nodded and slid the peanut bag toward me. Said the birds were friendly if you gave them a chance. After that, we had this quiet routine. We didn't talk much, but sat together and fed the birds. Sometimes he'd point out little things, like how one pigeon always limped, or how another one stole from the rest. His name was Hank. He told me he used to be a mechanic and liked simple things. He didn't have any family around. I told him I didn't have many friends. I think we both understood what it was like to be alone. One afternoon, he showed me a picture of his old dog, Daisy. She was a golden retriever. You could tell from the photo how much he loved her. He asked if I could draw her. I spent 2 days working on it and gave it to him the next time I saw him. He didn't say much, but he folded it up carefully and put it in his jacket pocket. Then, one day, he wasn't there. I waited for him, but I figured something was wrong after a few days. When I finally returned to our usual spot, a group of older guys sat there instead. They had Hank's peanut bag and tossed beer bottles into the pond. One of them laughed when I walked over. He said they got sick of that old creep and made sure he wouldn't come back. I told them to leave, but they just laughed harder. One called me Hank's little pet and dumped the rest of the peanuts on my sketchbook. Then they left, still laughing. I sat there for a while, shaking. I cleaned up the mess and fed the birds anyway. Later that afternoon, I found Hank sitting on a bench closer to the park entrance. He had a black eye, but when I asked him about it, he just said he had a fall. He handed me a folded piece of paper with his address on it and said I could visit if I wanted. That weekend, I went to his place. It was small but neat. He made grilled cheese and tomato soup, and we spent the afternoon fixing up an old bike he had in the garage. Every Saturday after that, I'd go back. He taught me how to fix things, like changing a tire or cleaning a carburetor. We finished the bike together a few months later, and he told me it was mine. Hank passed away 2 years later. He had a heart attack in his sleep. The landlord said Hank had left me his tools and the bike we worked on. I still ride it. It's old and a little rusty, but it works. I keep the drawing of Daisy on my desk, framed, right next to my sketchbook.